Welcome everyone, Old School Alex, back to show you how I use this thing, my knife. This is a tool that I think most printmakers don't use or use very little. I know I didn't for the longest time, and I started using it once I realized that it's what I had to use to get real fine details in my prints. I'm going to show you how I use it. All right, I'm going to show you two very simple ways to use your knife, but first I need to show you something really important that you have to remember while you're using it. All right, you always have to be aware of how deep you're cutting. This is important for a few reasons. First, as you can see here, when you come to the end of your cut, you need to be cognizant of where your blade actually is, so don't be looking at the back of your knife. It's also helpful if you end just before your stopping point, turn the knife around, and meet up with your original line. Second, straight lines are the easiest to cut, so it's not terribly important how deep you cut it, as long as you keep in mind that it needs to be deep enough for the gouge that you're going to be butting up against your cut line. Not to worry if you don't understand this point. We'll come back to it in a bit. Finally, the tighter the curve you're cutting, the shallower the cut should be. This is especially true when it comes to wood. You can get away with a lot more when you're using linoleum. All right, I'm going to cut my first lines, and I'm going to come back to them in just a little bit. Notice how when I get to the end of the line, at the top of the banner, I flip my knife around, just like I explained earlier. All right, unrelated, but here's a little C-gouge action for you. Got to flip this sucker around and finish these banana shapes. Moving on. All right, here's the first trick I wanted to show you with the knife. I'm using the knife on this black cut line because I'm going to carve my red horizontal guidelines from right to left, and I want my carved lines to come to a complete stop at the knife cut line. Well, there's that banner again. Don't forget to flip your knife. All right, here's the second point I was talking about earlier. The knife cut line should be deep enough to allow the carved wood to come clean off when the C-gouge butts up against the cut line. If the cut line is too shallow, then the carved line won't cut off as clean as it should. Again, this is very important when it comes to carving actual wood, but linoleum is a little more forgiving. Here's the last thing you need to know before you start using your knife. You won't always run into your cut line perpendicularly, so it's important that you stop carving with your gouge as soon as either one of the wings touches your cut line. For the best results, back your gouge out before you lift it up. This way you don't chip these delicate lines. And here's how you use your knife to finish these gouge lines off. Simply bring the tip of your knife to your cut line and gently draw it back while applying a bit of pressure. Well, as I finish this section of the carving, you can tell just how much I like to use the knife. It's definitely one of my favorite tools, and I really want to encourage you to start using it. Also, I can't stress enough how important it is to understand tonal value when it comes to printmaking. But that's a much longer story for a different day. Well, I hope that was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed that. Those are just a few of the ways that I use my knife. Once you start experimenting with it and using it for yourself, you'll find other ways to use it, and it is a very, very helpful tool. It's also one of the easier tools to sharpen, so there's no excuse for not using it. Be sure to subscribe, and also be sure to follow @TheRealOldSchoolAlex on Instagram. And if you have any ideas for future videos or tutorials, please let me know. Leave comments below or shoot me an email. Until next time, see you later. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Once you start using this thing a little bit and experiment with it, Well, I hope that was helpful. I really hope you start using this. Well, those are just some of the ways that Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Those are just a few of the ways that I use my